Hello everybody, Mr. O here, and what I have is my very first blank comic book cover. One that I finished anyway. I had started another one, but today's video is going to talk about a serious matter of appropriation and plagiarism, and it is good to know what the definitions of those are. Now, when you hear appropriation, especially in to current society, we are most times using that in cultural appropriation. So let's talk about this. And this is actually why I drew Demon Slayer, because this kind of covers a lot on this topic, believe it or not. And just stay with me. Let's first talk about cultural appropriation. Now, we know that manga and anime is a style from Japan, and it has become so intense that it's ingrained into Japanese culture, to the point where even the government gets involved when it talks about censorship or anything in that nature. Now, when I draw this, am I appropriating the Japanese culture? The answer is no. And it's for various reasons. One, art lends itself to be used by anyone who sees appreciation. Now, does that mean you can appropriate cultural and traditional stuff and be very disrespectful? Absolutely, and that's cultural appropriation. What I'm doing is I am a fan of Demon Slayer. I did fan art. And if you look at what my drawing, I did it in the same style, and I made some personal changes because I have, no matter how much I draw like a manga or anime artist, I still have my own unique style, and you can kind of see that pop out. If I was doing an Aboriginal piece, and I use Aboriginal art to do something that they totally believed against, that would be disrespectful. And that would be when we use the term cultural appropriation, is when you go to the level of disrespect. It is not up to you to completely decide if something is disrespectful or respectful. It's the culture itself. Now, does one individual represent a whole culture? It does not. So it is okay to, have those debates and have that. So that's all I'm going to say about cultural appropriation. Now let's talk about art appropriation. All right, in art, we have people who take things that you develop and they sell it as their own. So I did not create Demon Slayer nor the characters of Demon Slayer. But if I start using those characters in my manga, in my anime, on my t-shirts to sell, that's appropriation, especially when you don't give credit to the original person. Even people think it's okay to take somebody else's art as long as they get credit. It's not okay. You still got to reference the original art, or it is appropriation. And it doesn't matter if you do the character's original or not. It's still somebody else's character, somebody else's design, somebody else's work that they developed. Now, going with that, we can talk about plagiarism. All right, so there's levels of plagiarism, and there's a difference between fan art and just straight up plagiarism. All right, so if you look at my two poses, if I folded up the comic book and we can see the character, and well, it is not my character, but it is in a different pose, and the style is definitely mine and not copied from anyone else. So is this plagiarism? The answer is no. Now, if I represented this as my own work, my own original idea, that would be appropriation. Now, when I flip it, I want you to see this pose because I bet you have seen this pose before. So if you look Tanjiro up from Demon Slayer, this pose is probably going to pop right out to you. Now, the pose itself is from an animation cell, so I don't know who specifically was the creator of this scene. And I should go through the manga to see if this exact look was actually taken, because anime does a great job of recreating the manga. But this pose, what I did is I drew the pose. So up to a certain point, I was plagiarizing, and then I gave him the fire breath and the flame of the sword. That was unique, and that was brought up on what I created. Now, would this pass as fan art? The answer is yes. If I was in a classroom and I turned this in for a grade, would it be plagiarism? The answer is yes. Now, what's the difference? When you just creating fan art, you're not doing anything to be evaluating. Fan art is usually created to help you get better. If I sold this, it would be plagiarism. If I drew this for a friend or put it up on my Facebook, it's fan art. If I turn this into a grade, this half, only this half, is plagiarism, even though I made changes. The question is, did I make enough changes? You can argue that I made 20% changes to the original picture, from the bleeding eyes to the flames to even some of the colorations. Now, what changes if you use inspiration? What changes it to be your own original? Well, I'm going to tell you a number to start with. Use 50%. And then go up from there. Even at 50%, it could fall under plagiarism, depending on what you're actually changing. Look at your style. Is it in your style, or you're just redoing the artist's original style, and just because you want to learn? And there's nothing wrong with that. Is it okay to copy professional artists' work to get better? Yes. Is that the best way to learning? It's okay at times. There's other better ways of learning how to draw. But guys, as artists, as creators, you have to respect other people's work, especially if you want your work to be respected. So be careful of what you appropriate, because you should not do that. And if you get called out for that, own it. Even if it's just mud in the face. Don't appropriate other people's artwork to represent it as your own. If you do appropriate somebody's artwork because it's like you want to copy, you can just say after so and so. I'm a big fan of Alex Ross, so I would say by Mr. O after Alex Ross. He has done that with many pieces himself. And then remember, if you're in school or you're in college and you're turning stuff in for a grade, it is plagiarism when you don't use your own work, okay? When you receive something for it, it becomes plagiarism or appropriation, depending on what you're doing it as. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it very educational. And I got to grab a piece of paper. And this is very important because I like to do it live. Can't always use the set ones always. And just remember, you are amazing. And if you feel alone and lost, just know there's people out there who care about you. All right? Bye-bye.